Okay, well, I won't waste too much of your time here. Yes, this is a re-upload of my DMC video because, as you've seen, the initial upload got age restricted. And in the realm of YouTube, that essentially means we're killing the video and not pushing it towards anybody's feeds. They just have to know that it's there, which is a death sentence for any YouTube video. And it's certainly a different experience. I don't think I've ever had a video of mine age restricted before, and that's foreboding as hell because I want to do a Mortal Kombat video later. But if you've seen the video already, thank you so much for tuning in and watching it. If you haven't already, well, here you go. This is an edited version of the original upload. If it gets flagged again, though, I'm just gonna have to take the L on that one. The sponsor probably won't be too happy about it, but I gotta do what I gotta do. Just as a quick reminder, I do upload these videos early on the Patreon, ad-free and uncut. I guess now that's a selling point. Anyway, let's continue on with this show. I'll catch you guys in the next video. This video has been brought to you by HelloFresh. When you need dinner fast and you don't want to go out in this blazing heat, that guy is on fire. Don't head to a restaurant, try HelloFresh instead. Save money by ditching a typical grocery store visit, buying the same old things again and again. Instead, branch out and take your pick from 40 weekly recipes covering calorie and protein smart lunch and dinner options, vegan meals. Hell, there's more than just dinners too. You can also choose from over 100 items to round out your orders, like snacks and easy to prepare lunches, so you can easily take some good eats with you on the go. Everything's delivered directly to your doorstep in a single box, packaged and portioned just right so that nothing goes to waste. Even if you don't consider yourself a good cook, HelloFresh orders come complete with extremely easy to follow instructions, and you can be certain their ingredients are delivered farm fresh, ensuring the best quality. As someone who's been using them for some time now, trust me when I say you'll be making some great tasting meals in no time at all. And that's perfect for someone like me who works from home. I get caught up in a lot of video editing and streaming, and I simply don't have the time to go out and get what I need to make dinner. With HelloFresh, with all that sweet ingredients coming to me, well, you just can't beat that convenience. So go to HelloFresh.com and use code SCMJ50 at checkout for 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com, code SCMJ50 at checkout for 50% off plus free shipping. Thank you as always for helping support this channel, and whatever it is you decide to make, I hope you enjoy yourself. Now then, let's continue on with the show. Boy, it's time. Gotta be real. This is the one I was looking forward to the most, simply because of the game's reputation. I mean, I'm sure even non-Devil May Cry fans know about the attempted reboot, DmC Devil May Cry, announced way back in 2010, I want to say. That was certainly an interesting time. It was during the Tokyo Game Show of September of 2010 where Capcom would surprise audiences with a new look for the series, but gone was basically everything that made the series. There were demons, but there were no snide quips, no crazy energy. It was gritty, dirty, and starred a new Dante. I didn't say much, if anything. Was it actually a DMC 2 reboot? He had a smoking habit and might have been suffering mental delusions. Were these demons actually there, or was this all happening in Dante's head? It was different, and to jump ahead here, Ninja Theory would outright abandon this concept and go for something a little more grounded, and in hindsight, I think it would have been a better story if they stuck with this original idea, but regardless, this shit was polarizing. This was not what fans were expecting when they would hear rumors of a new Devil May Cry game. I mean, why go in this direction? Was the last game, DMC 4, not the success they were hoping it'd be, despite that one going multi-platform? I think about that, but then also realize, wait, this was Capcom during a time where they weren't exactly in the best position with their audience, assuming they were more than just fighting game fans. In that area, it was okay. Street Fighter still had a healthy life, and I think people liked Street Fighter Cross Tekken and Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but even then, those games were marked with stupid decisions and clumsy DLC practices. So no, it turns out Devil May Cry 4 got a great reception and sales were good, it just wasn't good enough for Capcom. So wondering how they can get similar numbers from more successful franchises at the time, they would look to Western developers to take the helm on the next Devil May Cry game. And if you're wondering, well, wait, how the hell did they come to that conclusion? You can thank this man, Keiji Inafune. Dude around this time had a massive boner for Western developed gaming and didn't have the best things to say about the Japanese scene, which he was finding more and more antiquated. Now, I'm not here to argue whether he had something going there or not, getting into the gaming mindset of the 2000s and 2010s, but I do kind of find it funny that after convincing Capcom to take it to the West for the next DMC game, he would then almost immediately after leave Capcom, and it just strikes me as Inafune has no idea what the fuck he was doing with himself around that time, and he likely dragged a lot of people through the mud because, they had faith in him, and then he just up and skedaddled. Well, in for a penny, in for a pound, as they say. Capcom would hire Ninja Theory to make the new Devil May Cry that would appeal to Western markets. Ninja Theory at this time didn't have the best track record. I mean, until doing research for this video, I never even heard of Kung Fu Chaos or Enslaved Odyssey to the West. I did hear of Heavenly Sword, an early title for the PlayStation 3. I didn't hear much, but I did hear of it, and I remember a couple of folks saying that it was alright, nothing amazing, but it was serviceable. And I guess that was enough for Capcom. And so this new Devil May Cry would soon begin development under Ninja Theory, led by one Tamim Antionades, who was already swimming with ideas on how to make a new flavor of DMC with Western appeal, and originally that meant getting rid of everything that made Dante what he was in the previous games. Mr. Antionades didn't think that Dante fit the definition of cool anymore. To paraphrase him a little bit, he figured if old Dante were to walk into a bar, he'd get laughed at. During a rather infamous panel at GDC one year, they would claim that they didn't want Dante to be a gay cowboy anymore. The use of Batman and Robin here, I assume they meant there was no more room for camp either. They didn't want him in a hair metal band, I think, and he was going to be a special guest star in Fight Club. Here's the thing, I don't think he's necessarily wrong with some of those assessments. I would agree that he looked like a gay cowboy in DMC4. He was full of camp, energy, and he said woohoo a lot, but that's exactly what fans loved about Dante. If he got laughed at a bar, who gives a shit? Dante wouldn't, the fans wouldn't. It just felt like a silly, ill-begotten, and homophobic reason to justify a new take on the character, and one that fans weren't too happy to see come to fruition, to put that very fucking lightly. And to Mr. Antionades, he didn't care. And while I would normally admire that kind of conviction if one was truly dedicated to their vision, no matter what others say, I think it was clear that he was just being a dick about things, antagonizing the very audience that would even consider buying the game in the first place, because guess what? Those are the folks that were gonna buy the game. Again, I don't mean to be mean when I say this, but who was Ninja Theory around this time? I'm sure Heavenly Sword fans had some interest, but it was a safe assumption that the ones likely to even buy this game at all was the very people that this dude was antagonizing. So we had a game with a direction that sounded pretty misguided, a bunch of unhappy fans seeing the writing on the wall. Strangely, I think one of the final nails in the coffin was, believe it or not, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Remember that? The Sony Smash Brothers game? Whatever happened to that guy? Capcom would decide to use the new Dante as the DMC representative to help push the new game that was due just a couple of months later, and for some that was that. And sure enough, DMC Devil May Cry would go on to not do as well as Capcom hoped. It didn't bomb, but it sold less than DMC4, and that game not doing well enough was the whole reason Capcom even considered this reboot in the first place, so yeah, oops. Given that Capcom would go back to the original continuity after this, and considering that there hasn't been a follow-up to this game since its original release over 10 years ago, I think it's a safe bet that this is a one and done, so is it even worth considering today? Even after learning the mindset of the game's development, even after knowing that this game was an even larger black sheep than DMC2, I still went into this game with zero expectations. I was always indifferent to this game's existence. I wasn't going and expecting to like it, but I also wasn't going and expecting to hate it. I played all the other classic games up until this point, but I'm still heading into this with nowhere near the amount of baggage a traditional longtime fan likely had back in 2013. I know a lot of folks have long since written this game off and have moved on, but I still want to see the game completely in action for myself. And yes, the version I'm playing will be the definitive edition released for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One back in 2015. This has numerous quality of life updates that just make it, well, the definitive version. And from what I've heard, you shouldn't touch the original release with a 10-foot pole, but just as a heads up, this version is console exclusive. The PC release is based on the original version, so things are more antiquated there, and you got Virgil with a fedora. After finally playing it, I can say, rather confidently I might add, I really like this one. In fact, I'd say it's one of the best character action games I played in recent memory, but we should start with the plot summary first before I delve into it any further. In this new setting centering on Limbo City, we find our new Dante likely doing what he always does in his spare time here, going to nightclubs and having sex with prostitutes. Oh, this Dante fucks? Gotta say, that's a bold new direction for this dude. But the life of Dante is not an easy one. For as long as he can remember, he's been hunted and hounded by demons from the underworld, or Limbo as this game calls it, that answer to their ruler Mundus. Yeah, in this game it's Mundus and not Mundus. Yeah, I guess that counts as different enough, but whatever. Dante often finds himself in the heat of battle, fending off any demons sent his way, and lately things have been escalating to a point where he can't even get a good fuck in his raggedy-ass trailer. In this universe, Mundus rules over Limbo City through the power of consumerism, propaganda, control of the media, and as long as mankind remains ignorant to the truth, his power and reach is damn near all-consuming. But there exists a faction that is privy to Mundus's true intentions known as the Order, which I found a little confusing at first because that was also the name of the religious group from DMC4, but in this game, it's an underground liberation front led by Guy Fawkes, Virgil. He wants to expose Mundus for what he is and overthrow him. And assisting him in this is this girl named Kat, a psychic that with the power of her runes, partially made by squirrel semen, her words not mine, she can spiritually enter the world of Limbo and see things for what they really are. It's with this power and with the help of Virgil that she learns about Dante, and believing he's perfect to aid the cause of the Order and stop Mundus for good, she heads after him to try to recruit him to their cause. But at first, Dante kinda wants nothing to do with anybody. Typical loner attitude, doing typical loner things, but thanks to Virgil and Kat, Dante will soon learn that he's destined for greater things. In this continuity, Dante is not only the son of the demon Sparta, who in this game just seemed like an ordinary dude and was sentenced to an internal BDSM session after being captured by Mundus.
What?
His mother, Eva, was also an angel, making both Dante and Virgil Nephilim, half demon and half angel, and this puts Dante on the #1 spot in Mundus's shit list, for it's said that Nephilim have the power to overthrow Mundus for good, and obviously Mundus doesn't want any of that, so not only did he kill Dante and Virgil's parents when they were still young, but in the present day he sends everything in the kitchen sink towards Dante, from his vast array of demons, big and small, a giant slug succubus thing, the host of Fox News, and Mundus's concubine that attacks you with her unborn child. Even the very city itself holds malicious intent and repeatedly tries to kill Dante by shapeshifting on a whim and shit-talking him at the same time. It's a great environmental effect seeing these random phrases pop on the screen, letting you know the city is onto you and you got some company heading your way. It's not at all subtle and not too far in. It even drops the menacing 1 to 2 word statements and just straight up says things like "fuck you, Dante," like an online edgelord. Then it's just silly, but still, I like it. Oh my god, but could you imagine if this game came out like 10 years later and Ninja Theory was trying to blend in with the Zoomer crowd? Oh lord, Limbo would probably be saying things like simp, woke, skill issue, no risk, and that wasn't very poggers, Dante. What the fuck did I just say? Though Dante and the gang can fend off every demon thrown their way for the time, defeating Mundus is a whole other matter, since he's practically invincible as long as he's connected to the ginormous Hellgate that augments his powers. But since Mundus is unaware there are 2 sons of Sparta, Dante and Virgil have the element of surprise. Dante fends off the demons while Virgil does his hacker man shit, hacking into computers and trying to destroy the system from within. But Virgil figures if they really want to hit Mundus where it hurts and distract him just long enough to seal the gate, they're gonna have to kill his unborn child. I mean, there's no sugarcoating that, that's exactly what happens, and oh wait. Yeah. Oh no. Oh, fetus deletus. And now that Mundus is absolutely livid, Dante and Virgil put their minds and powers together to stop the tyrant for good, separating him from the Hellgate and delivering the coup de grace to Mundus's ambitions. With Mundus defeated and killed, the world of Limbo is laid bare for all of mankind to see. What was once hidden is now revealed. The real world has been awakened. And now, since everything is in total chaos, mankind free to take control of their own destiny, Virgil reveals his true intentions to rule the world himself. Though he claims that he'd be a far better ruler than Mundus and actually respect his subjects, Dante and Kat don't buy that and try to get him to stop, but Virgil won't hear it, leaving Dante no choice but to beat some sense into his misguided brother. After a grueling battle, Virgil is defeated and almost killed by Dante before Kat stops him from doing something he regret. Left to lick his wounds, Virgil makes his exit while Dante and Kat live on to, I don't know, get some pizza? But this isn't the end of the story for Virgil, since he gets a DLC campaign all to himself, Virgil's Downfall, and yeah, that's exactly what it is. Virgil didn't take losing to Dante well, like, at all, and this thankfully short campaign is all about him going nuts and slowly convincing himself that he's worthy to be the next ruler of the underworld. It's not good. I didn't like this at all because it shows a side of Virgil that I don't think was ever so much as hinted at in the main game. I think about who was Virgil in the main story, a confident rich man that could hack computers, deliver abortions with a sniper rifle, and had nothing but respect for his brother. Yeah, his true ambitions are deplorable, but I never got the idea that he was mentally unstable, just out of touch given his nature as a Nephilim and a rich pretty boy. But in this story, he fends off against these illusions of Kat and Dante, all while his inner demons slowly convince him that he needs more power to take what's rightfully his. Oh wait, did I say more power or more cocaine? Because during these animated cutscenes, I tell you, man, it looks like Virgil took all the drugs. Near the end of the story, after breaking the heart of his ghost mom and killing his own inner demon, he powers up to look something like his classic look. I think that's what they were trying to do, but He just looks like he's Martin Short from Santa Claus 3 powered by crack. Put some lotion on your face, Virgil. You look worse than Ashy Larry. Yeah, this Virgil sucks. He knows how to put on a suit, I'll give him that. He looks damn good, but he doesn't elicit the same kind of cool vibe as the original. You don't believe me? Put on his classic costume from his campaign. Holy shit. That is so bad. But that does it for DmC Devil May Cry, and I gotta be real with you, with the exception of Virgil's downfall, which I thought was a complete waste of time, I really enjoyed the story for this one. My mindset going into this was, okay, it's a different continuity, it's doing its own thing. Obviously, it's taking a lot of established elements from the original timeline and altering it a bit, but what ultimately matters to me now is if the story it tells and if the characters in it are enjoyable, and I think DmC tells a solid story. It's nothing special. I mean, the story itself is nothing you haven't seen already, Devil May Cry or otherwise. The political and social commentary is also laughable. It's so unsubtle about its jabs at, again, consumerism, information control through media, propaganda, extreme conservative views. It's mainly used to establish Mundus' villainy, but it also just comes across as a very cheap, kind of lazy way to express how evil Mundus is, so I just ended up rolling my eyes a bunch. I feel they're trying to say something while also saying absolutely nothing at the same time, so I don't think the story needed that. But the more grounded, character-driven approach in the setting means time is taken to establish who these guys are, their backstories, and their chemistry is completely believable. I'm just gonna say this now, this version of Mundus, a lot better than the original one. I mean, his actual boss battle is lame, and physically he isn't as imposing as the giant burly statue you fight at the end of the first game, but the character himself? Well, that's the thing. There's an actual character here. Mundus in the original game was just a generic villain. Imposing, to be sure, but pretty cookie cutter for me. This version of Mundus, I admit, can be viewed as generic in his own way. He looks like a cross between Lex Luthor and Kingpin. We get a shot of him fucking his concubine who looks like a blow-up doll. It's not pleasant, but he does have a physical presence that I don't think the original Mundus had, and I enjoy it when my head villain is actively involved in the story to not only remind us who the threat is, but to also potentially develop them. Obviously, your mileage can greatly vary on the effectiveness of this, but I didn't find Mundus boring in this. I thought he was one of the better villains in the series so far, though outside of classic Virgil, there's nothing much to compare that to. While not to a similar extent as Mundus, I found the other villains entertaining in their own way too. I love that this succubus abomination is the secret ingredient to this drink that Mundus pushes on humans to make them fat and all that other shit. Bob Barbas, the news anchor, is about as subtle as a clown with his cock out, but you know what? His attempts at smearing Dante's name using his news channel, I thought that was legitimately funny, and his boss battle is one of the game's best. The same could be said for Lilith, Mundus' concubine. She has a seriously great stage, and her boss battle, while gross as fuck, is still striking and memorable. My favorite character, I'm happy to say, is Dante. He starts as a foul-mouthed jackass in the beginning, but his growth into a traditional anti-hero is clear-cut, and I found it gratifying to see in action. I didn't hate this guy, nor did I find him insufferable. He's not cool. In fact, he can come off as a real tryhard. It doesn't happen all the time, but some of his jokes are just...
I just seem to drag on forever. Church.
But he's got the confidence, he can back up his mouth, and over the course of the story, he will begin to genuinely care about Cat and mankind. He's not a totally selfish asshole like I thought he was going to be. But he isn't cool, so in that regard, I think he falters. I think the opening with the carnival and him putting on his clothes in the trailer is the craziest it gets with this guy, but after that, it's more about his foul mouth.
You want to kill me? You can't kill me! I'm 1,200 years old!
You don't look a day over 12,000.
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
You know, I also found him pretty emotionally layered too. That's something I can't say for the original Dante if you're not including all the supplementary material from other media, I'm sure, but Dante's journey to learning what he really is, processing it, and becoming the hero that Limbo City needs was not only captivating, but also entertaining. I also find his dynamic with Virgil to be great. These two get good dialogue together, in a way I find better than Dante and Virgil's dynamic from the original continuity. I know some of you probably didn't like me saying that, but in this continuity, I like how their brotherly chemistry is more emphasized here, and it has some great payoffs that serve the bigger picture. I'd be more than happy to see another story starring this version of Dante. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but this Dante is alright. I was rooting for him to succeed. And now I'm wondering how many folks think I'm just straight up fucking wrong about this whole thing, right? And to tell the truth, it was a bit intimidating thinking about heading into this, right? For years, friends and fans have painted this picture about DmC, about, oh, this is the bad one. And as I'm playing the game for myself, realizing that, hey, I'm not hating this. I'm even finding it enjoyable. Am I fucked in the head or are others just being too harsh on it? I was a little nervous writing the script, wondering if I could properly put my thoughts into words expressing what it was I liked about this game, but do I risk alienating fans of the original timeline? Do I risk becoming this pariah? And then I thought, well, wait, I'm a fucking Sonic fan. I go through that shit all the damn time. This is nothing compared to that. So you know what? I'm just gonna go say it. Yeah, this is a good story and an even better game. I'll say this though, because I played the other games before this one, muscle memory fucked me in the ass pretty hard in the first couple of hours. Like, fundamentally, the game is still very similar to previous games. It's still all about using your weapons and guns to hack and slash demons ad nauseum. But there's no style switching, the combos are different, you only get a handful of new guns, and one is called the Kablooey. Alright. This Dante is closer to Nero, if anything, and just like my praise I had for Nero, I think this makes Dante more readily accessible than previously. He can even use his weapons to either pull in enemies or pull himself towards things to close the gap, keep the combo going, and man, like before, that never got tiring. But now there's also this new emphasis on demon and angel powers. As a Nephilim, Dante gets access to both demonic and angelic weaponry, utilized by hitting the attack button while holding down the proper trigger button, the left trigger being angel powers while the right side being demon powers. Outside of the classic Rebellion sword, which handles similar enough to previous outings, Dante will also get this large, slow, but extremely powerful axe, a blinding scythe that shreds everything with its large range and aerial combos, a pair of gauntlets that I know are supposed to be the equivalent of previous fist weapons, but these don't strike me the same as Ifrit or Beowulf. They look more like Hulk hands, or if you're like me because your mind works weird at times, the first thing I thought was those giant arms that Ludacris rocked in this Get Back music video. I'm sorry, it's just what I immediately thought of. A part of this game's combat is not only effectively utilizing each weapon to the best of their ability, but also using the right weapon at the right time. What I mean by this is that some enemies in this game have a stronger affinity to one element over the other, in this case, angel and demon powers. Conveniently color-coded too, so you don't have to think that hard. If you see a blue enemy, you use angel weapons to knock them down. If they're red, you use demon weapons. In Definitive Edition, this isn't strictly necessary. You can still damage these guys with any weapon and get the job done. It's just, when you properly use the right weapon, these guys drop like flies. They stagger easily, they barely have any time to get a proper hit in. It's something you should be doing anyway. From what I was told by friends and in the Discord, this was mandatory in the original release because if you didn't use the right weapon at all, you were doing no damage to these assholes and you'd stagger yourself, breaking you out of your combo. That sounds fucking miserable. Glad I didn't have to go through that. Holy shit. And sometimes the game will throw both types of enemies at you at once, so I can only imagine how much of a dick sort that would have been to encounter. That said, I still wasn't the biggest fan of this mechanic, Definitive Edition or not. The weapons are cool, the combos are cool, but considering how you have to hold one trigger to use one set of weapons and then the other trigger for the other set, and you have to keep holding that trigger button down to use the weapon, I have to stress that, and they start throwing multiple goons at you with different affinities, my hands felt like fucking pretzels in the heat of combat, making sure I was holding down the right buttons, targeting the right enemies. Oh, fuck that. That wasn't very fun. But most of the time, you don't have to worry about that. Most enemies can be taken down with whatever you want, it's just a matter of how you do it. And this game isn't lacking in giving you the means to dish out a ton of combos. And they changed the ranking system in this too. Instead of rewarding variance, it's just damage dealt, so you can have an easier time reaching those elusive S, double S, or even triple S ranks without having to scramble your brain trying to switch to different weapons to make it possible. Really, this game is a cakewalk for most of the adventure. The only time it wasn't for me was when I had to deal with specific enemies that had like super armor that made them harder to kill or made them incredibly hard to stagger, like with the chainsaw dude. I like getting hit by these guys as Virgil because he screams like a bitch. I also didn't like these dudes at first with the katanas. It seems they block almost everything you throw at them, swords or guns otherwise. It was the only time I found myself actively using the dodge feature to look for an opening, which is really good in this game by the way. But you can also parry their attacks and stun them that way, and that requires a little more finesse, so maybe for your first time stick with dodging. But yeah, these are the only enemies that I found respectively difficult to face. Literally everything else in this game can be tackled in the same way. Smack them on the ground or in the air, and when they get too far away, yank them with the chain and close the gap. It can be brain dead, oh god, especially if you use double trigger, which not only regenerates your health and makes you stronger, in this game it stops every enemy in its place and makes them easy pickings. It's frankly absurd, but even though I like the visual look of this game's double trigger, it doesn't beat just turning into a demon and going nuts with combos, so in that way I find it a major downgrade. Still, I found most of the combat stimulating. The only exception was Virgil. I didn't like him at all. He doesn't have to worry about switching between angel and demon modes all the time, as well, at least as much as Dante did. And he can still cause a lot of mayhem with his summoned swords, but I just wasn't vibing with his ground and aerial combos, and I wasn't getting a similar sense of flow I could muster with Dante or shit, even Virgil from the other games. His campaign is also very short and ends extremely anticlimactically, and he looks like an asshole with that DMC3 outfit on. Take that shit off, Virgil. Then again, so does Dante, to be fair. If you really want this Dante to look like the old Dante, you can have him rock the DMC 1 and 3 outfits, but it just looks like bad cosplay to me. I'd rather just stick with the original look, or one of the other costumes he gets doesn't put him in a bad wig. When you're not fighting demons, you're exploring the depths of Limbo, and with the city itself being a living entity that wants Dante dead, the environment will constantly shapeshift and become more hazardous. This not only adds a degree of tension to the action, but it also makes for, honestly, some of the best level design I've seen so far in Devil May Cry, with utility and control that genuinely feels great to use for the assload of platforming challenges the game will throw at you. You can use your chain to swing across large gaps or pull debris towards you to jump on. You get this air dash that reminds me of the best things about the Trickster style in DMC3. You have a double jump that doesn't feel like you got cement in your shoes. Seriously, I think this is the best Dante has ever felt regarding basic movement. And given the game's super linear structure, there's rarely a dull moment between combat, and I rarely ran into any glaring camera issues. Most of my flows were completely my fault. Not to mention, this game just looks amazing. Combat is packed with a ton of cool looking particle effects and crunchy sound design. I love the vibrant, saturated color palette of Limbo that still manages to keep the important things distinct enough without having them being lost in the busy environments. Enemies look great, bosses look great, the characters look great, except for this sort of grimace that Dante and Virgil have. Even when they're sad, they look like they're about to break into a smile. God, Dante gets it pretty bad in that scene with the succubus. Can make the Joker run for his money with that. Good God. Most of the soundtrack uses music from Combi Christ and I think it's Noisia, so it's heavy on industrial rock and dubstep. It's fine, but a lot of it came off as background noise to me, so don't ask me to pick any favorites. It all kind of sounded the same to me. Exploration is rewarded well enough, though I didn't feel very compelled to explore everything. This game doesn't shower you in red orbs like other games, which isn't the end of the world since upgrades in this game are earned by spending ability points you earn in combat. I love that the game gives you the option to try new skills before making the purchase, just so that you're sure you know what you want. That's a great feature to have. Red orbs are just used for items like in DMC4, but I found myself not getting much of these because the payouts from these cocoon sacks and these lost souls were pretty meager. I ended up not upgrading my health and Devil Trigger gauge as much as I did in previous games, but again, that's not so bad because this game is much easier than previously. Secret missions are also still a thing in this game, but now you gotta find these secret keys first and then find the secret door to open them. I hear the original game also had specific keys for specific doors, and I'm like, God, why? Regardless, I'd rather it just be like the other games where you just have to worry about finding a single location and be on your merry way. I still did these when I could, I just didn't think they were ultimately necessary and didn't have the same value because of how easy the game already was, I didn't feel like I absolutely needed that extra health you would get from completing these, But yeah, I don't have much else to say other than I deeply enjoyed myself with this one. I understand why a lot of veterans write this one off. After looking into it myself, this was a game made in a misguided direction that made fans of the other games feel insulted, even with Capcom helping Ninja Theory ensuring that the combat was just as good as before, and it is in my opinion, even though creators like Hideaki Itsuno claim that this game is just as important to him as the other games are, and I genuinely believe him when he says that. To a lot of folks, that doesn't matter because this direction came at the expense of what fans liked before. This Dante, this world, these characters are not the same as the ones they cherished from before, and in some part, I think that's unfair to this game, but at the same time, it is what it is. And all I can say is, if you're at all curious, just play it for yourself. I had a lot of fun with this, and though I have one more game to look at after this is easily top 3 in the DMC franchise for me so far. I noticed some that may be heresy, but I had fun, and that's really all that matters to me. And I encourage those that liked the game to, talk about what it was they personally got a kick out of, or maybe the things that you didn't like about it, even as someone who liked both the original series and this new game. The way I see it, it doesn't matter. Like, we have the original continuity back. This game is one and done. It's 10 years ago. It's long forgotten at this point. I at least I assume. I don't know. I don't follow Devil May Cry discussions a whole bunch. But still, I think it's healthy to discuss the positives and negatives of the game, especially for something as notorious as this one. So yeah, just leave a comment. Let me know what you think. What did I forget to talk? Oh, don't do that, because I get that all the damn time. You forgot to talk about A or B or C or D. It's like, I'm not a fucking compendium. God damn it. But still, as always, thank you all for your time and your patience for this. So we're almost done. We've got one more game left to go. Devil May Cry 5. Do we end on a high note? Safe assumption, yeah. I have a little experience with this. I did a spotlight of it years ago, but That was back in the original release. We got a special edition now. Probably comes with all the special edition bells and perks and whistles and shit. But yeah, I won't waste any more of your time. Let's end the video. Let's do some more patron shoutouts. All right, continuing where we left off with the $10 patron shoutouts. So you can get your name on this list yourself by subscribing to my Patreon. $5 gets you on the list you see over there, and $10 you get your name read by me, because people really like when you do that kind of thing. Okay, considering where we left off, Jordan Prignan, Nisenda 20G Lowrick, Allens33025, Julian Reviews, Crimson I64, Martini Super Celeste, Joel Teotuico, okay, Heather McKnight, Mario the Duke of NJ, Pablo Vallejo, Sonori K, Little Drawing Boy, Reggie Reg, Mr. Zarzis, Jeremy Scrungle, Big Red MC 716, Toaster Jason, Uncle Razul, Orange Bowl HR Theater, Joe Schremer, Zeno, XX Reborn, Jack's Brother, Neo Cosmopolitan, Dan Steinbeck, GNXG, Zonic Speeder, Benny, the Panda Herman, Axel Port, Pierre, Lie Lime, Sync Weaver, Lucifer's My Bitch, Adam Christians, Albert, Logan Kid, Brandon Christensen, Roy is our boy, Dapper Burger, RVGF, Gaila Cardinal, oh fuck me, No Sujata, Dark Kurmanora, Shaynette East, Temporary Me, Mark Ferguson, Jostin Colin Valles, Pancake 13, Wing Dingus, The Muffin Man, and finally for today, Hyper Legend Ultra. Thank you all so much for, I'm putting my iPad down the chair here. Thank you all so much for coming by, stopping and watching the video. As always, your support is greatly appreciated, and I'll see you guys next time with DMC 5. Until then, have yourselves a fantastic night. Do take care of yourselves and each other. I guess take care. Forgot the fucking outro then. Ugh.